What happens when Ford's pretty pony goes rogue? These weren't your average street Mustangs, they were factory mistakes, dealer hustles, and backdoor experiments that turned Detroit's sweetheart into a drag strip assassin. Today we're counting 10 Mustangs from the 60s that didn't just run fast, they destroyed everything in their lane. The Mustang's legend was born in 1964, but its real reputation as a drag strip killer didn't come from the glossy brochures or showroom floors. It came from shady back rooms, dealer order sheets, factory loopholes, and a small army of racers who knew how to squeeze every last tenth out of a blue oval badge. Some of these cars were official, others were never supposed to exist. All of them pushed the edge, blurring the line between streetcar and quarter-mile rocket. So buckle up. From dealer-do drag monsters to factory lightweights, here's the definitive lineup of the 10 baddest Mustangs to ever light up the Christmas tree. Top 1, 1965 Mustang A/FX 427 SOHC Camera drag car. Picture this. It looked like a showroom Mustang until you popped the hood and found Ford's wildest experiment ever stuffed under that fiberglass lid. This was the Mustang that didn't just line up at the strip, it ripped the rulebook in half. Back in '65, the drag strip was war. Chrysler had Hemis, GM had Big Push, Ford fired back with the outrageous 427 SOHC Camera. This NASCAR-bred beast cranked out over 615 horsepower, dropped into a featherweight Mustang A/FX. Acid-dipped panels, open headers, pure violence. It could blast the quarter mile in the 10S bone stock. This wasn't just a Mustang. It was Detroit's middle finger to the competition, fast enough to scare the rule book into rewriting itself. On the outside, the car wore minimal chrome, straight body lines, and a lifted nose to handle massive slicks. Fiberglass fenders, hood, and doors shaved the pounds down to the bone. Inside, it was pure business. No carpet, no back seat, just a roll cage, tachometer, and a single black bucket seat, waiting to slam your spine into the rear glass. But here's the kicker. It was never meant to be street legal. Ford slipped these Camera Mustangs through backdoor channels to trusted racers. No VIN plates, no warranties, just a wink and a nod to destroy everything at the strip. They tore up NHRA/FX class and quickly earned a ban when they embarrassed Factory Bend, Mopars, and Chevys. Most of these monsters were wrecked, parted out, or disappeared when Ford backed off factory drag support. A genuine '65 Camera Mustang is a ghost, worth six figures if you can prove it's real. And if you think this outlaw pony was wild, wait till you see what Ford unleashed next. A factory Cobra jet so potent it turned sleepy suburbia into a burnout paradise. Top 2, 1968 1/2 Mustang 428 Cobra Jet R-Code. They said you couldn't buy a race car off the showroom floor. In the spring of 1968, Ford proved them dead wrong. Midway through the 1968 model year, Ford dropped a bomb on drag strips nationwide, the brand new 428 Cobra Jet engine. This wasn't a luxury cruiser's big pedal, this was a street brawler, purpose-built to humble Hemis. Officially rated at 335 horsepower, wink, real Cobra Jet came alive when the pedal hit the carpet. Outside, it looked like any Mustang GT fastback. Subtle hood scoops, chrome trim, and factory badges fooled your neighbors into thinking you'd bought just another Sunday cruiser. But inside, it was a sleeper with bad intentions. Heavy-duty connecting rods, high-drop heads, functional Ram A induction, and a 3.91 rear axle that launched this pony to the 12S with little more than slicks. And here's the real kicker. Ford didn't even plan to build it at first. Dealers and racers, like task of Ford, pushed for a bigger bullet, so Ford greenlit a handful of 1/2 year Cobra Jets. Word spread fast. Unsuspecting Camaro and Roadrunner owners lined up next to a plain-looking Mustang, only to get left in the tire smoke. The recode Cobra Jet turned sleepy suburban streets into battlegrounds and forced GM and Mopar to up their game fast. Its quarter-mile dominance rewrote Ford's street cred overnight. Today, real 1/2 year R-codes are crown jewels for collectors, commanding six figures at auction. But if the Cobra Jet was Ford's street assassin, the next beast wasn't built for the streets at all. It was bred to break every record ever set by a Mustang. Meet the unstoppable Super Snake. Top 3, 1967 Shelby GT500 Super Snake. One car, one test, one wild experiment that unleashed the deadliest Shelby Mustang ever dreamed up. In 1967, Carroll Shelby wanted to prove the GT500 could be more than just the king of the streets. It could be the king of everything. So he grabbed a standard GT500 and swapped its 428 Police Interceptor for a monster. The same 427 side-oiler V8 that powered the Le Mans winning GT40 MX2. 520 horsepower, race peak internals, dual carburetors. It wasn't just fast, it was a rolling middle finger to the speed limit. Externally, the Super Snake looked like a regular Wimbledon white GT500 fastback with Le Mans stripes. The difference was under that elongated fiberglass hood. Inside, it was pure Shelby. Wood-rimmed wheel, racing gauges, a 4-speed top-loader begging to be slammed into gear. When Goodyear asked Shelby to test their new Thunderbolt tires, he saw an opportunity. He took this one-off Super Snake onto a closed Texas highway and clocked 170 on street tires. It was a publicity stunt that worked too well. The car survived, the tires survived, but Ford refused to greenlight a production run. It would have cost double the standard GT500, and insurance companies would have fainted. Only one was ever built. It vanished into private collections for decades, surfacing occasionally as one of the rarest Mustangs on Earth. Today, if you want a Super Snake, you pay millions, or settle for a modern tribute, but the original, untouchable. Yet if you think a single match Shelby was wild, the next Mustang didn't just bend the rulebook, it shredded it. Because what happens when Ford shoves NASCAR power into a street Mustang? Top 4, 1969 Mustang Boss 429. They called it the Boss 9, a Mustang so radical it wasn't really built for the street, it was built to cheat NASCAR. By 1969, Ford wanted to dominate NASCAR's high banks. The catch? Their new 429 cubic inch semi-hemispherical V8, known as the Boss engine, needed to be homologated for street use. The solution? Slip it into a Mustang fastback and sell just enough to meet the rules. Externally, the Boss 429 looked mean but not outrageous. Big functional hood scoop, understated stripes, Magnum 500 wheels. Inside, it was minimalist muscle. Black bucket seats, a 4-spoon manual, and a dash cluster that screamed pure business. But the real story was under that massive hood. The hand-built Boss 429 featured a forged steel crankshaft, big point cylinder heads, heavy-duty rods, and a monstrous Holley 735 CFM carb, factory rated at 375 horsepower. Insiders knew it easily made over 500 horses once you unchoked the exhaust and carb. Ironically, the Boss 429 wasn't even a drag strip monster from the showroom. It was too choked down by emissions gear. But in the hands of tuners, it became an unstoppable brute. Strip the smog, tweak the cam, and suddenly you had a NASCAR engine wrapped in a street body. 0-60 in 5.3 seconds, quarter mile in the high 12 seconds, numbers that embarrassed its competition. Carcraft, Ford's Skunk Works contractor, hand-modified every car because the Boss 429 was so big, it didn't even fit the Mustang's stock engine bay. Less than 860 units were built for 1960 buy, making it one of the rarest blue ovals to ever thunder down a street. But if you think the Boss 9 was sneaky, wait until you meet the Mach 1 that turned Ford's small B reputation upside down. A drag pack ready to obliterate anything that dared pull up next to it. Top 5, 1969 Mustang Mach 1 428 Super Cobra Jet Drag Pack. You thought the Mach 1 was just a pretty face with racing stripes? Think again. This was Ford's back alley hitman, and its name was the 428 Super Cobra Jet Drag Pack. In 1969, the Mach 1 badge was Ford's hottest seller. It had style. The shaker hood scoop, matte black hood treatment, aggressive rear spoiler. Inside, it was a gentleman's muscle cockpit, high back buckets, wood grain dash, and that Hearst shifter begging for abuse. But the real secret was the drag pack option. And under the Secoul nod to street racers, tick the right boxes, and you got the brutal 428 SCJ under the hood. This wasn't your average Cobra jet. The SCJ got stronger pistons, a beefier crank, oil cooler, and 4.3 rear gears ready to catapult you off the line. On paper, Ford still claimed a laughably conservative 335 horsepower. Reality? Tuned right, the 428 SCJ easily pushed over 400 horses and mountains of torque. This meant 0-60 in under 5.5 seconds and quarter-mile blasts in the low 13s, or quicker if you ditched the air cleaner and let it breathe. The 428 SCJ Mach 1 didn't just run the strip. It embarrassed GTOs, roadrunners, and even gave the mighty Hemis something to sweat over. Many left the lot with street slicks already mounted, ready for Saturday night showdowns. But the drag pack wasn't the only game in town. Deep in Holman-Moody's secret garage, a lightweight Mustang was being born, a monster so radical it made even the SCJ look tame. Top 6, 1965 Holman-Moody Mustang A/FX lightweight. Think the factory drag Mustangs were savage? Wait till you meet the one touched by Holman-Moody, the kings of Ford's racing underground. This wasn't a production car. This was a bullet built to break the NHRA rulebook. Back in '65, Ford's A/FX, A/factory experimental Mustangs were already pushing limits. Acid-dipped bodies, fiberglass fenders, and the monstrous 427 SOH cammer. But when Holman-Moody, the same crew behind Ford's Le Mans domination, got the green light to cook up their own version, they went even further. They stripped everything: seats, sound deadening, glass replaced with Lexan, steel panel swapped for fiberglass. The goal? Get curb weight under 2,800 pounds. Featherweight by big thrum drag standards. Under that impossibly light shell lived the legendary 427 SOHC, producing well over 600 horsepower in race trim. Mated to a close ratio 4-speed and 5.14 gears, this thing didn't just launch, it detonated off the line. Quarter-mile times dipped into the high 10s with pro tuning. For a 1965 Mustang, that was mind-bending. And Ford? They pretended it didn't exist. Officially, Holman-Moody's A/FX lightweights were experimental. Unofficially, they destroyed everything with a bow tie or a pentastar. A handful were built, some say as few as 4. Most were raced to death, leaving only legends and faded pit lane photos behind. If you find a real one today, you've uncovered a piece of Ford's forbidden drag legacy. But while Holman-Moody terrorized the strips, another Mustang was prowling the streets with factory king status, the Shelby GT500 KR King of the Road. So what made it worthy of a crown? Let's find out. Top 7, 1968, Shelby GT500 KR. King of the Road? Some Mustangs flexed on the drag strip. This one demanded you bow down. Meet the GT500 KR, the so-called King of the Road, the street predator that blurred the line between luxury cruiser and quarter-mile bruiser. In 1968, Carroll Shelby wasn't content with the GT500's 4.28 police interceptor. He wanted bragging rights against big plush Chevys and Mopars, so mid-year, Ford quietly slipped him the brand-new 428 Cobra jet. A brutal engine underrated at 335 HP, but in reality closer to 400 plus. Wrapped in the GT500's distinctive fastback or convertible body, the KR added functional scoops, aggressive striping, and the iconic King of the Road badge on the fenders. Inside, deluxe wood trim, roll bar, Stuart Warner gauges, a gentleman's muscle office with a beast waiting underfoot. Ford's rating games fooled insurance agents, but not street racers. On the drag strip, the GT500 KR could run mid to high 13s bone stock, humiliating GTOs, SS396S, and even some Hemis if they weren't paying attention. That was Shelby's secret sauce: unbeatable torque, reliable launches, and a roar that lets you know this king didn't share his crown. Production was short-lived. Only about 1,250 fastbacks and convertibles combined left Shelby America in '68. Many were driven like royalty for a year, then parked, crashed, or transformed into clones. Today, a real GT500 KR in mint condition is a six-figure unicorn that still commands respect wherever it prowls. But not every Shelby was factory-ordered. Some snuck onto the streets through rental lots, disguised as weekend toys. A Mustang you could borrow to tear up the strip, legally. Top 8 1966 Shelby GT350H, rent a racer. Imagine walking into an airport, handing over your driver's license, and walking out with a track-ready Shelby Mustang. Insane? In 1966, it was reality, and it turned Hertz into an unwitting performance dealer. This was Carroll Shelby's genius, the GT300H, nicknamed the Rent-A-Racer. Shelby American built a special run of GT300S for Hertz as part of its Sports Car Club promotion. On paper, these were just rental cars, but under the fiberglass hood was the same Hypo 289 V8, tuned to 306 horsepower, 4-speed top-loader manual, some later cars had automatics, and the same side exit exhaust that made his race cars roar. Outside, they were unmistakable. Black paint with gold Le Mans stripes, Magnum 500 wheels, and Hertz Sports Car Club badges on the fender. Inside, they were all business. Roll bar, racing belts, and minimal creature comforts. Hertz expected a fun marketing gimmick. Instead, they got a fleet of battered muscle cars coming back with slicks in the trunk and drag strip time slips in the glove box. Weekend warriors would rent them on Friday, swap the tires, race all night, and return them by Monday, sometimes with the original street tires bolted back on. It's estimated Hertz leased about 1,001 GT350H in 1966. Many were wrecked, abused, or had their high-strung engines swapped before returning to the lot. Today, surviving examples are prized collector's cars, and reminders of the time you could literally rent a quarter-mile killer for a day. But for the next Mustang, you didn't need a rental agreement, just a heavy right foot and a big prompt surprise that turned an ordinary street cruiser into a genuine street strip bruiser. Top 9, 1967 Mustang 390 GTA S-Code Street/Strip. It looked like Dad's daily driver until the light turned green. Then the unassuming GTA 390 showed why Ford's S-Code was a secret sledgehammer for street racers. In 1967, the Mustang faced fiercer competition than ever. Big Vive Camaros, GTOs, and Mopars were flexing muscle, so Ford dropped its 390 cubic FE V8 into the Mustang's engine bay for the first time. The S-Code 390 GT cranked out 320 horsepower and 427 pound-feet of torque, making it the perfect weapon for weekend street strip duels. The GTA package took it a step further. A stood for automatic, a heavy-duty C6 transmission that could handle the FE's twist, plus GT badging, dual exhaust, power front disc brakes, and styled steel wheels. On the outside, it was still all Mustang charm. Fastback lines, twin grille fog lamps, GT stripes hugging the rocker panels. Inside, wood grain dash, console shifter, and that big rumble you'd never expect from a so-called commuter car. Most folks never realized how lethal a well-tuned 390 GTA could be. Tuners added headers, rejetted the Autolite carb, and with a sticky pair of slicks, these mild-mannered coupes ran low 14S, some whisper under 14S, a time that embarrassed plenty of factory 309th Chevelles and 383 Roadrunners. Yet because it wasn't a Shelby or Cobra jet, many S-Code GTAs got overlooked. Countless were daily driven into oblivion, swapped to small parks, or stripped for parts. Today, clean survivors are some of the rarest full-size big Mustangs from the golden era. But one Mustang was even leaner, meaner, and built with racing in its bones. Lightweight panels, minimal comforts, and competition in its DNA. Get ready for the GT350R that made the Strip its private playground. Top 10 1965 Shelby GT350R competition lightweight. Picture a Mustang, so raw, so stripped down, it couldn't be registered for the street. Only unleashed on the strip and track, where it terrorized everything in its lane. In 1965, Carroll Shelby wasn't content with just the street hog GT350. He wanted a Mustang that would demolish Corvettes, Porsches, and every pretender in sec production. So he built the GT350R, a no-compromise, race-ready monster that weighed nearly 130 pounds less than its street sibling. Shelby started with a standard K-code fastback but gutted it mercilessly. No rear seat, no insulation, plexiglass windows, fiberglass hood, magnesium wheels, roll bar, and even an oil cooler for endurance runs. The heart? A blueprinted Hypo 289 V8 pushing 360 horsepower, paired with a Borg-Warner T10 4-speed, Detroit locker rear, and side exit exhausts that roared like a cornered beast. Though built for road courses, the GT350R found its way onto drag strips too. With sticky tires and short gears, these featherweight ponies ran mid-13s, shocking muscle cars twice their size. For many, the GT350R blurred the line between road racer and strip assassin, if you could find one. Only 34 original GT350s were ever produced. Most were pounded mercilessly in competition, winning SCCA titles, local drags, and even illegal street sprints. Survivors are million-dollar unicorns now, representing Shelby's rawest vision of Mustang performance. So that's the end of this super heist Shelby. It proved that the Mustang could be a terror on the track, straight from the factory. Imagine the other forgotten horses still waiting in the stables to remind us of how brutal the 60s really were, and Mustangs, from the 65 Cammer Drag King to the featherweight GT350R. All of them proved the 60s strip wars were fought and won by raw Mustang muscle. Some survived, some vanished, but their legends still roar today. So tell us, which of these strip-shredding icons would you fire up first? Drop your pick below and join the debate. Thanks for watching Muscle Cars Revolution. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the roar with every Mustang fan you know. The next burnout is waiting.